Hello everyone, welcome to my session 10 teaching memo and session 11 introduction/assignments. I hope you all are rested and rejuvenated and ready to finish the semester strong. I took part in my first 5K ever on Saturday. At 68 years old, I decided I'm going to start running after I retired from football officiating. It was a fundraiser for the Arlington Education Foundation, the local school district where I live, here in Poughkeepsie. I walked, ran, and finished in 38 minutes, which, not a great time, but I finished, and I was happy about that. I'm doing another one this Saturday for Miles of Hope, a local breast cancer charity, unless it rains. And they can take my entry fee and use it as a donation. I am not running in the rain. The weather was awesome this weekend, and I'm looking out my window right now, and it looks pretty awesome right now. I think spring might finally have broken through. My wife has placed some daffodils on our kitchen table, which I'm sitting at, and they're right behind my computer, so you can't see them. All right, a little housekeeping I'll start off with as normal. The semester is quickly ending. There's only 2 weeks left. There are no more new assignments with the exception of the 3-part analytic summary, but you've known about that. I've been talking about that ever since you started the test creation process. So you should have printed that template out and have been taking notes and putting citations in there before, so you can write it quickly, when it's next week when it's due, or 2 weeks when it's due. The revised selected response test discussion board was due yesterday, but it is still open. That is something I am not going to close because I want people to take each other's tests, and I've noticed that you're still giving each other feedback, which I think is wonderful. I said it was optional, but you're still doing it, and I think that is great. This is probably the best interaction in this process that I've had, and it's due because most of you are really excited about learning how to do this process and doing it right, and realize that it's not easy. And one of I attended a workshop by Dylan Thomas, I keep calling him that, Dylan William, who is one of the foremost gurus on formative assessment. And I learned something from him, you know what, because he was a psychometrician. He started his career off as that. Talked about, one of the things he talked about was making your distractors close to the exact answer in 2 or 3 of your questions. So only those kids who really know, who are really knowledgeable about your subject matter will get those right. So one of the things that test creators do is they try to create a spread, not of a normal curve, but a spread of those who really know it, and those who know it pretty well, and those who are struggling. The closer your distractors are to the real answer, naturally, the harder the question is. Some of you have made your question, there needs to be one obvious right answer, okay? And when I say obvious, I'm using that term loosely. For your easy questions, which you should put at the beginning of your test, the answer, if you've done any work at all, the answer is obvious. The other distractors are close, but really there's only one best answer. When you make your harder questions, the distractors are pretty close. So the student really has to know what the best, capital B-E-S-T, answer is. So something I learned about creating tests last Friday when I went to Manhattan for a workshop. Make sure you check back, especially in your group, for those people that may be struggling with all the work that's due now. So check back. But I'm not going to grade this discussion board till later on. So you still can get your, I think it was only open for a week. I won't start grading it till after the 2-week period is up. So you still have time to make your 6 posts, take each other's take each other's tests, and give feedback if you so wish. One of the things that you could do if you're in your group, people aren't taking your test, is you go on to the Tools and Communication menu, and that is right now. I don't know if you have this capability. With my, if you click on Tools Communication, I have an send email link, and if I click on that, I have this option to send it to all users, all groups, all teaching assistants, all student users. So I can click on that, and it will send to all the people in the class. So I would think you would have that option too. I'm not sure. If you don't, somebody should call me and let me know, because I've been telling people to do this for years. So please, if somebody isn't taking your tests or hasn't posted their test, just send them a nice little reminder email. I will be grading the double entry journals. That takes me a long time. I'll be doing that all week. I've graded some already, those of you that handed them in during the week last week. Remember, if you haven't done yours yet, I don't take points off for being late, but just remember that you need to connect to my presentation. You should watch my presentation about test prep, because I really tell you what I think is important in there. And I also give you some other things, talk about some other things, especially a situation where a teacher got fired because she didn't know any better, and she used some inappropriate test prep materials. This session, discussion board, is off to a good start. Formative assessment and appropriate grading practice. These are two topics that many people are really not familiar with. They just do it because that's the way it was done to them. They give zeros, they take off points for late work. I think I mentioned at some point where one of my wife, Dr. Laura's English teachers, took off 10 points every period it was late. So if a student had classes, didn't have a free period, that person lost credit just because they couldn't get to the teacher during the day. And when I talk, you've probably heard me talk about grading practices being ego-based, or teachers leaving their egos at the schoolhouse door. It is so true, because that's when the ego comes into play for the most, is when people are grading. Jenna in my 640-20 section mentioned the halo effect, which Popham talks about. And the ego is also involved when it comes to giving zeros. The halo effect is when you are biased by knowing your students. You know, I like this person, I don't like this guy. I used to have teachers that graded boys much more harder than girls. And when they were confronted with this, they accused me of all kinds of sexist stuff. And I said, well, look, this is data. You know, you can ignore it, which it sounds like you're going to, but it's pretty evident that you're grading boys significantly different than girls. So, you know, that is what I would call the halo effect on steroids. So, you know, the ego is involved when it comes to giving zeros. Yeah, that's what you deserve. And I'm going to show you an article that brings that out in a minute. What I think the person is really saying is they just don't want to be bothered grading your stuff. Why wouldn't you want to know what a student knows? If he cheated on a test, now you give him a 0 and say, I don't give a crap what you know. You know, you cheated. And that's your ego. You deserve a 0. You did nothing, you cheated, you deserve a 0. That's ego talking. we need to be sending the message, this is important, you can do it, and I won't give up on you. If you're giving a kid a 0, that last statement, you might as well just cross it off, because I am giving up on you because you cheated. So you probably know that in my class, I don't deduct points for late work except for the discussion boards, which I close. Now, I don't deduct points. And also in the discussion boards, there is a timeliness factor, and that's for a reason. That's because if you make all your posts on the last day, which many of you still do, it doesn't matter what the rubric says, no one can discuss anything with you, and you can't discuss anything with anybody else. So it really precludes the whole object of a discussion board, is growing your knowledge from talking with your classmates and looking at different perspectives. So, so that's one of my policies. Some of you will say, it's not fair to the other students. And the thing is, I do that. I've been doing that for since 2005. That's 13 years. Haven't heard a complaint from one student that somebody else hands something in late and still gets a full credit for it. And still, 90 to 95% of you still hand your work in on time, regardless of the fact that you don't get deducted points for handing it in late. And the answer to that is because you're more concerned about your own grades than someone else's. And why should you care about someone else's grade? And plus, you knew my policy from the beginning, which is very important. And it's all about the classroom culture you create. If you create a culture where equal is not always fair, then kids understand that. Think about kids that come to school, kids from poverty, kids from stressed families where there's only one parent, or there's drugs and alcohol and there's abuse going on. Think about that. That may not be the highest priority for them, and they may have had a bad weekend and couldn't hand it in. So all kinds of things like that. You all know that. So leave your ego at the door, especially when it comes to grading. I wanted to share an interesting article with you about a Canadian teacher being suspended for giving zeros, acting in opposition to the school district's policy. If you read it, and you'll have to click on the link in my teaching memo, you'll get a taste of the ego-based rationale for why some teachers believe that giving a 0 will promote accountability, and not giving them will encourage laziness and apathy. Notice the language that the author uses in this, quote unquote, hurt a student's precious baby feelings. I mean, is that ego? You see that on Facebook all the time when people are talking about liberal versus conservative. They start calling each other names. I mean, that's the ego on steroids. And there's a lot of that going on now. I just wanted to click on that, show you the article, and you'll see right here in the second paragraph, the school's no zero policy was brought in a year and a half ago ostensibly to help motivate kids do their work, but probably also to prevent children from feeling the shame and guilt that rightly accompanies a failing grade. How about that? That's what we're all about, shame and guilt, which you should feel. Not that, man, I got to keep trying, I got to get better. That's what we want. We want grit. We want a positive mindset, a growth mindset, where kids say, the harder I work, the more intelligent I will become, and the better I will do. Not that the shame and guilt of failing, that's what you deserve. So anyway, enough of me. I could go on for this because this is the part of education that really bugs me. So you obviously can see the ego, read that, and you'll get a good feel for it. Some of you may agree with it. That's when you got to say, okay, if I let kids who cheat do it again, they'll all cheat. And the answer is no, they won't. They have to do it again. They won't want to do that. So you won't be promoting laziness, cheating, apathy, etc., etc. You want to promote good habits. So you be the judge. All right, that's it. Make sure you watch my session 11 assignment video because I go over everything that's due from till the end of the year. So that's it.